My name's Wayne Carl, coming to you from Australia, and I've got a very special guest in Brian Ebersole, current XFC matchmaker with an MMA record via Tapology of 51 wins, 18 losses, 1 draw and 1 no contest. Mate, we just spoke about it. What is your actual real record?
I'd have to really sit down and have a look and see which ones aren't listed. And I'd probably have to scrape the bottom of the barrel of my brain to come up with a few. I know I've got over 60 wins because I got that win somewhere in the UFC, but I'd say they're probably missing about 8 to 10 wins of mine.
Your UFC record's 5 and 3?
Yes. It's just a bunch of small shows back in the day that before there was even reporting, there's no one to report it to. And SureDog obviously couldn't keep up with every single small show in America. We've got shows all over the country. It's not quite like Australia. Australia is a really, really small little pocket of MMA. I mean, we probably have more shows in my home state of Illinois in a year than Australia wide would have.
Okay. Well, for those that don't know, Brian, you shared the cage with Chris Liddell, Rich Story, Carlos Newton, Hector Lombard, and Stephan Bonner. So there's not too many people in MMA that have had close to 8 or over 80 fights, mate. So welcome. Mate, let's get back to early Brian. Let's get to know you. So where you grew up, other sports, careers before MMA. Let's get to know Brian Ebersole.
Other sports, I only wrestled and played American gridiron football. So I didn't play gridiron until I was in grade 6, which for a lot of people was a late start. A lot of athletes played a bit younger, but I wasn't really too bothered to do that. Like, it was summertime and going into school, so I was pretty happy just to hang out for the summer and play with my friends as opposed to doing something organized. And then, would you say other careers?
Yeah. Have you done anything other than MMA?
Too many. I don't even know if I want to talk about the lowlights and the highlights of that. I mean, I went to college with the wrestling scholarship, and the jobs I had in between the summers reminded me why I was going to college. You know what I mean? Like, I probably, and had I took that lesson full bore and not found MMA, I would have finished college and went straight into doing something with a white collar or closer to white collar. Because all the blue collar work I did, man, just break your body down. It really does. It was tough. So it was nice that I was able to make a go out of it with MMA because I left college early and didn't get my degree. I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
So with MMA having worked out, I didn't have to go back to school and I didn't have to jump straight into like what I would have been qualified for, which is basically a labor type job, whether that's in a factory or putting on a roof on a house, whatever it's going to be, carrying cement and mixing it and whatnot. So I didn't really have a trade, didn't have any major skills. I lucked out a little bit.
You were studying to be a teacher. You're a coach. Very similar. I've heard you coach from the corner. If anyone's been to an XFC or heard you corner, you can tell you break things down. So you were studying to be a teacher. You pretty much are that now. So it worked out.
It did. I found my back door into wrestling coaching. I mean, I wanted to be a wrestling coach. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to live that simple life, have summers off. And really, it's the same pattern I would have had all my life. You go to school 9 months a year, you have the summer off, and you keep rinsing and repeating. So it would have been very, very similar to my life before that. But as it stood, this MMA thing came about, and I got pretty decent at it. So I kept chasing it. And I was finally able to break through. But in the meantime, like, to support myself, instead of digging ditches and all that in Australia and other countries, it was a lot easier to get in the door as a wrestling coach in a martial arts gym. So that's become obviously the career path I've taken since competing.
Yeah. So where are you coaching currently?
Currently, I'm at KMA in Liverpool,
Yep.
New South Wales. We've had a couple high-profile pros come through. Double champ Martin Ewan was part of our gym. It sounds recently like he's changing his training situation. He got a taste of training over in America for his last camp. So I don't know if he's going to incorporate more time overseas or if he's going to find a new local situation or a mix of both. We've got Australian champ Theo Christiakos at 77 kilos, my former weight class, doing really well for himself. And we got a really good group of amateur kids. And just my public classes, like, I got a lot of really cool parents and kids and young teens that come in to train. And 2 days a week, starting next month, I'm actually going to go over to another gym called Tudokan. The fella John Tooby there is really good friends with Master Fari, the guy that runs KMA. So Fari's condensed my classes down to a couple days a week to free up a couple days to go over there and start a new Muay Thai program. So yeah, pretty excited to kind of branch out, catch a new atmosphere, and obviously I'm not leaving my old situation, so I get the best of both worlds.
Nice. Well, I like to ask this question because it says a lot about people. If I jump in your car, I jump in the Ebersole wagon, what's playing?
Ooh, this morning it was just whatever was on 96.9. But if you let me on my Spotify, it's a dangerous mix. I've got everything from country to Metallica to Green Day, John Legend. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty eclectic. I don't really mind whatever mood I'm in. I just find that playlist. I don't have like a playlist for like workouts, or I don't have a playlist for certain things. I just lump everything into these big groups like easy listening, soft rock, metal, 90s rap, and 2000s hip hop. Like I kind of break it up like that. And whatever mood I'm in, I just hit that playlist, hit shuffle play, and let it go.
Nice, mate. Okay, so let's go back to pre-UFC. And I don't want to, you've had so many fights, but what would be the highlight fight or the highlight moment of your career pre-UFC?
I've got a couple, but like I'd have to say the one that changed my tune and probably helped boost my confidence that I was on the right path and I didn't make a huge mistake by just leaving everything I knew and moving to California way back when was I fought on an M1 card. So M1 Global was affiliated with like Fedor and Vadim Finkelstein, Team Red Devil out of Russia. I'm not sure if they're still on, but Team Red Devil back in the day was like Fedor's team, and it was a big deal. So we had an eclectic group of Americans, like Chael Sonnen was in the corner. The late Justin Eilers was on the team. So it was like USA versus Russia in New Jersey. And I went up a weight class to take the fight on a bit short notice. Living out in California training, I was a middleweight at the time, and I went up to 93 kilos to light heavyweight. And the guy's record that was presented to me was like 16-4. And I'd had like 30-some fights before even moving to California. So the experience wasn't freaking me out. We get there to do all our medicals. We see all the like official paperwork of our whole team and the opponents. And you see like the Taekwondo European champion, Russian national karate champion. Well, in America, that doesn't scare you like karate champion, Taekwondo champion, because the sport's different in America. At least at the time it was. It wasn't quite 80s hard style kickboxing and things like that. So it wasn't until the first fight of the night when you see, one of the heavyweights throwing a punch that you're like, wait a minute. They train other than Karate Kid style. Like they're throwing big Fedor haymakers and, with good legs and good kicks. And I knew I was in for a bit more of a different day. To set all that up, I'm training at American Kickboxing Academy, and I think, hey, wrestler guy, why don't you go show your stand-up skills? So in my mind, I was going to stand up with this guy until, I hurt him and then maybe take him down and finish him. So the first 2 rounds, we're all on the feet. And then the third round, I took him down and got a TKO. We got a nice gray-brown tooth because of it. I about lost my tooth between rounds. Thankfully, it stayed intact, and it just changed color over the years. But that fight, because I found out his real record after the fight when I signed all my paperwork, he was 27-3 or 27-4 with some decent opponents mixed in. So that fight, being able to go up a weight class, short notice, beat a guy that's legitimately talented from the other side of the world and not just some guy from my own backyard, that kind of changed the game for me and made me realize, like, if I keep pushing, I'll be okay.
So UFC-wise, you had 8 fights in the UFC.
Did.
What was your highlight? Obviously, you shared the cage with some killers, man. Who was even in a loss. But what was your greatest moment in the UFC?
My 2 best moments were obviously entering the cage with Chris Lytle on short notice and all that, and I ended up getting the win. But actually, just walking out to the cage and being able to have a bit of fun. I wore a headgear out there and was like, hey, let me wear it. This guy's gonna hit me, and kind of playing dumb with the commission and the officials. Like, what do you mean I can't wear it? And that was fun and validating and all that at the same time. Again, on that, kid with the dream kind of deal. you push and you sacrifice and you finally get there, and it's like, whew, I knew I could do it. And then when I did, that was the only fight I fought healthy.
Okay.
I tore my back up during and after that fight, and the next 7 fights were a big struggle health wise. But I didn't want to let it go. Like, I just got to the UFC. I couldn't just stop, and I sure didn't want to take 2 years off in rehab and then be 36 and not want to fight it, 36 anyway. So the other moment that was probably the highlight was having that cookie in the interview after my last fight. I knew my body was done. I knew mentally I didn't want to try to push through 6-7 months of rehab to fix my neck, my knee, my back, and all that stuff. So just having that cookie at the end of the career and hanging out in a nice green room with a camera in my face for the last time was bittersweet, but memorable.
Nice. So I want to go back to your coaching because that's obviously a passion of yours. What's your favourite part of coaching? Or is there anything you don't like? But let's focus on your favourite part of coaching.
It's the same answer.
Okay.
My favorite part and the part I hate the most is telling people what to do.
And knowing you, that makes sense.
I'm putting kids on the right path, and I know, I'm pushing kids to do things that they need to do, but they don't always want to do. And so then telling people what to do, I'm not a confrontational kind of guy. I'm either really, really playful, or I'm faking being really, really serious, but I'm sort of half serious, but there's still an element of like, if you want to respond like with a joke, I probably won't yell at you, like a lot of teachers would, or a lot of people would be like, oh, you dare joke, you know what I mean? Trying to keep kids on that path for me is an interesting balance. We were actually talking about it just on the way back from wrestling class with one of my young guys, Alex, who fights on the next XFC. Just about like, we didn't really sweat today. It was a really soft session, but he said he learned a ton and whatnot. So it's interesting. I get some kids that kind of can articulate that they understand, and other kids just kind of fight me every step of the way. I tell them to speed up to do something, they don't want to speed up. I tell them to slow down to do something, they don't want to slow down. They're just kind of on their own pace. So telling people what to do, it's a bit fun sometimes, but other times I struggle with it. Yeah, I'm not a very authoritarian fella.
Future of mixed martial arts, mate. Are there any concerns for you? Obviously, we're on. I think the UFC is starting to take over boxing. In my view, what do you see in the future for MMA? Does it continue to climb, or does it plateau from now? Obviously, there's been a change in ownership from UFC. But you've got one championship. You've got Bellator. What's the one thing you see in the future for MMA?
Well, I think it's going to continue growing in the sense that what the UFC did was it took all these separate martial arts and brought it back under one roof and just said, it's just martial arts, it's just combat. So you can subscribe to a style because it's artistic, or you can subscribe to a style because that's maybe the way your body type works a bit better, or you have a proclivity towards striking versus grappling, or vice versa. But it's brought judo, wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu under the same roof. It's brought taekwondo, karate, kickboxing, Muay Thai, savate, lethwei. It's brought all that stuff under one roof and just said, listen, we're going to find out what works. You can be from any primary style you want. You're probably going to have to learn a little bit about the rest of it, which is what's been fantastic about the last 10 years, especially. There's less and less fights at the higher levels between guys that are pure striker, pure grappler. You're not going to see too many Francis Ngannou's versus Ben Askren's, for example. You know what I mean? Like, it's very obvious that they're one-sided athletes. As far as the bigger picture, as far as growth and stuff, it looks like one championship's going to take over, maybe not Australia totally, but it's going to have a big, big pull from Australia and all of Asia and half of Europe. And it looks like America is going to stick with the UFC, and the UFC is going to get half of Europe and half of Australia, and probably not much of Asia. So It looks like it's going to be two primary markets that have a very, very small overlap, mostly, I think, in Europe. And, of course, American kids will go fight in one championship, but I don't know how much they're going to recruit from that side. So I think it's going to be the two big fish still, and then everyone else is going to fight for scraps, and there's not going to be too many TV deals. And, obviously at the small end like us, it's for us, it's all ticket sales. It's all, bums and seats, and that's our entire set of revenue. If we can get sponsors, that's fantastic, but we're not going to get a TV deal, I don't think, anytime soon. We're not going to have Coca-Cola jump on board and start splashing their logo on shorts for fighters and handing out money. So
if you could sign anyone for XFC, May 24th, who would you sign? Anyone.
At this stage, nobody, because our budget is spent.
For free. Who would you sign? If you could sign anyone, who would you sign and why?
If I could see any Australian athlete fight on our show that month, who would it be?
Brian Ebersole.
Honestly, to see me with an arrow again and some abs would be a gift.
The abs ain't coming back.
No, they're probably not. They're probably not. Man, I'm gonna have to go just local and easy. I'm gonna go ahead and say Bevan O'Malley. Like, he's a bit of an enigma to me. I've heard about Bevan for years, from Justin Lawrence, who discovered him in a sense on the promotion scale. Matt Walton really talked him up. I've only seen him fight the one time live, and he just got hit with a big overhand right by Jackson Small. But it came off of, what I look at, it came off of a small mistake that came from his very, very traditional Muay Thai background. He threw like a teep, but he did it off balance, and he kind of limped forward with it. So it was one of those, maybe if he would have just held back that one kick, which wasn't going to, cause a knockout. That's not a big, powerful kick. It's more of a defensive, touch the tummy, maybe take a bit of breath from a guy. But it's not a killer. So he could have held that back, and that punch doesn't land, and that fight keeps going. So he's one of them guys I'd really, really like to get back in the cage and see, where he can go with the mixed style, because his stand-up's superb.
Back to the UFC, mate. What are your thoughts on, and it's one of my pet hates, so I'll put that out there, interim titles? What are your thoughts?
Unnecessary.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go on to PEDs. Has ASADA had any real effect since?
Well, there's been a lot of suspensions that wouldn't have happened without them.
Do you think people are still getting away with cheating?
Well, yeah, because people are still getting caught.
Correct.
So when no one's getting caught, that means more than likely not many people are trying. When people are still getting caught, that means a lot of people are still trying.
Back to Brian Ebersole. You've got one rematch clause in there, and you got one fight left at
Hector Lombard.
Hector Lombard?
Absolutely.
At what weight?
Well, it didn't matter last time. I was weighing in at about 75 when I fought him at 84. Yeah. And he went up, obviously, to about 92 by the time he got in the cage.
So out of all your fights, that's the one you want back?
Yeah. I went into that with a long game strategy, and I wish, in hindsight, that I would have sprinted, because I recover better than him, and I think I would have wore him out. So I was planning on him getting tired long term. Yep. But we went for a jog, and I just thought he'd drop off the pace. Yep. But he was doing a good job. He was on top a few times, and things like that. So had I sprinted and really pushed and scrambled and ran and pushed the pace, I think the deficit from sprinting is obviously a lot different. I mean, I can run 5 sprints at the beginning of a half an hour or an hour workout, and I never recover. You know what I mean? Whereas opposed to if I just run that half an hour workout, I never get tired, and then I can still sprint at the end. So, yeah, I just wish I went into it with a different mentality as far as pace, the strategy of the pace. Yeah.
All right, you ready for my rapid fire 5? And
yes, let's get fast. Heck, I answered the last question before you even finished it.
Unlike Wombat Jones, who wants to answer everything slow, you got to do it quickly, all right?
Quick.
Let's go. Harley or Porsche?
Porsche.
Wilder or Fury in a pub? Who do you have a beer with?
Fury.
Cheap food, KFC or McDonald's?
KFC.
KO win or sub win?
KO.
Who wins in a fight, Wombat Jones or Wayne Carl?
The fans win that one, because that'll be fucking entertaining.
Might happen at May 24th. It could be the last one. So that's one that you haven't signed yet, mate. All right, back to UFC. Who's the greatest of all time in the UFC in your mind?
GSP.
Who's number 2?
GSP.
All right. So you've obviously got a really supportive network around you. So who do you need to shout out? I know you've got a great family, and who do you need to support? You live a life of coaching and things like that. Who do you need to thank? And whether it be coaches, whether it be your family, who do you need to thank?
Well, I can go chronologically and go the XFC route. I've obviously got to thank Justin Lawrence. He's been part of my career and whatnot. He's the one who brought me over to Australia. So I fought on XFC my first 2 fights in Australia. And then he helped me find my 3rd fight, which was over in Perth, which is where I ended up going and coaching for a couple of years. And that's what helped anchor me back to Australia consistently. I've got to thank Mr. Walton, who gave me a start matchmaking. Without him, I might not be having this conversation with you. Obviously, Wombat for keeping me on. He didn't fire me. He didn't get rid of me. And he's given me the same reins that Matt did to move forward. And given me a few more responsibilities too, which is a blessing or a curse. I don't know which one yet.
I'll interview you in about 3 months and we'll have that discussion, mate. Where can we follow you on social media? Obviously, we've got XFC pages, but where can people follow Brian Ebersole?
I've got a Brian Ebersole fan page that I've had ever since I was in the UFC. So I put stuff out there. It's mostly technique stuff and things from other good coaches and sources. And then a little bit of like the inspiring stuff or the things I find, neat about the world at large. And then Ebersole XFC is the page I'm using to do all my local sports stuff with XFC and whatnot. And it's kind of the same thing, obviously sharing XFC stuff, but also sharing wrestling videos. Obviously, Australia doesn't have a big wrestling background. So stuff that I'm happy to share with all the athletes. I keep a few things back that I find, and I only share them with my guys because, I don't want Kyle Nope getting too comfortable on the wrestle, and then my guys have to fight his guys, and they already know what's up. So I'll leave the basics to them, but every now and then find a cool, tricky video from a Henry Cejudo. Keep that to myself.
Nice, mate. Well, obviously follow Combat Insiders. Really appreciate your time, Brian, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So thanks from Combat Insiders. I'm Wayne Carl. That's Brian Ebersole, and thanks for watching.